Hello and welcome everyone. This is DEJI360. I am DEJI360. It's been about 2 months now since lecturers in public universities across Nigeria proceeded on an indefinite strike action to demand the payment of accumulation of allowances owed them. Not quite long ago, polytechnic lecturers did the same thing as polytechnics in Nigeria were shut down for several weeks. The lecturers and workers there said they wanted better condition of service and improved funding for polytechnics. Well, the polytechnic lecturers are back at work after reaching an agreement with the federal government. But their university counterparts are still sticking to their guns. In the past week, Finance Minister Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala came out to say what the university lecturers are demanding amounts to 92 billion naira, and that the government can simply not pay, especially in the face of dwindling revenue from oil. The lecturers are insisting the government must cough out the money. Now, this whole issue climaxed to a major street protest in Lagos over the week. Coalition of civil society groups known as Joint Action Front, JAF for short, organized and led the protest demanding total reform of the education system in Nigeria. The protesters, marched for about 3 kilometers along the ever-busy Ikorodu Road in Lagos, causing severe traffic jam. Among their demands, free education for all across all levels and at least 26% budget funding of education. Take a listen now to some of the sound bites from that protest.
Fellow Nigerians, the time for action is now. The time for revolutionary change in Nigeria is now. And I can tell you one thing, that we are not going back until we succeed. The battle to save education is not just for the purpose of saving education in Nigeria. It is about saving Nigeria as a country. Because when you save education, you save Nigeria. When you save education, you save families. When you save education, you provide a better life for the people. And I tell you something, you all deserve a better life in this country.
Let's go and look at the income of the federal government. They should go and look at other oil-producing countries. What we are demanding for is too much. For Christ's sake, Ghana is spending 400 billion on education, which is 31% of their budget. And Nigeria is spending 400 billion for a country of 180 million. Ghana is about 28 million. So what is also demanding for that the federal government cannot do?
The level of run and decay we have in the system is unimaginable. We have schools that now teach chemistry with alternative to practicals. Where they want to do practicals, they use kerosene stove instead of kerosene burners. We have schools where the hostels are not more than poultry houses. Some of the hostels are students living, you see, are not even up to the standard of some poultries. Of course, this was proven by a team that the government set up that they call the Needs Assessment Committee. You see, ASU has been talking about funding of education since 1992. And when we talk about education, government will tell us where do I expect to get the necessary level of resources to fund education. In 1992, ASU suggested what we call the Education Trust Fund, which are really yielding a lot of money. In 2001, ASU suggested what we call the Stabilization Fund, which are using a lot of funds for the government. But you find out that, of course, most of this money are just really channeled to political things.
What we really want is that total resolution of all the crises in the education sector, and secondly, proper funding of education. We believe that the crisis in the education sector must be resolved, in which this ongoing ASU strike is one. And we believe that federal government must honor the agreement. If truly we want our university system to attain the globally competitive university system, and likewise that of ASU, if truly we want the globally competitive education system. And secondly, we are demanding for proper funding of education because we believe that it is only final and total solution to the problem of insurgency in Nigeria. The issue of clemency or amnesty can never solve.
Well, sound bites from the JAF protest that took place early in the week. Now, Nigeria's budget to the education sector for this year is approximately 427.53 billion naira. It is about 8.7% of the country's total budget of 4.9 trillion naira. It is sure a far cry from the UN recommended 26% of a country's national budget. Now, here is what is very disturbing. Of the total amount of money budgeted for education this year, approximately 367.378 billion naira is for recurrent. What is actually left for capital project is 60.141 billion naira. So in essence, That is what is left for the 36 federal universities, 21 federal polytechnics, and 21 colleges of education, as well as over 100 unity schools and several other federal education institutions in the country to use to execute capital projects. Quite challenging, you would say. I will be coming back with more statistics, but for now, I'm being joined on the program by two gentlemen. Achike Chude, who is a political affairs analyst, is the vice chairperson of the Joint Action Front, that's JAF, and Abiodun Aremu is a civil rights activist and also the Secretary General of the Joint Action Front, JAF, as well. Gentlemen, thank you very much for joining me on the program. You just saw those statistics I came out with there. Huge budget, some people want to say 427.53 billion naira to education this year. It's actually the highest any government in this country has given to education, and we know it is the highest, higher than education actually got the highest in the 2013 budget. But then it's just 8.7%. And then quite a significant amount of money going for recurrent. I'll start with you, Achike.
Well, it's a problem that this country has been having for so long. Yes, people have been talking about the issue of skyrocketing, recurrent expenditure. Also, the issue of ghost workers, even within that discussion, has always been there.
This is massive.
Yeah, it is massive. It just tells you clearly that there is something very, very wrong in the country. And again, when people talk about, I think for me, it's a matter of priority or the lack of priority by government. If people understand, that education is the basis of everything we do in a country, education is the basis of having a proper healthcare system in Nigeria, even the criminal justice system. Everything in this country is related to education. You cannot have a proper industrial base without education. The extractive industry you're talking about cannot be taken anywhere without, making sure that your people have the basic foundation and so on. And when you hear government ministers themselves, say that the average Nigerian graduate is not employable, then you begin to ask yourself, whose fault is it? That statement alone should ginger everybody in the country, especially those in government, to make sure that the right things are done for education.
I understand quite what you're saying, but I have to ask you, during the week you organized this protest in Lagos, and of course you said you were using that to call attention to the deplorable state of education in Nigeria. You won 26%. That's what you're asking for, and we also had you, Mr. Aremu.
And it's a minimum.
Ask for free education as well, Mr. Aremu. You asked for free education because we have your soundbite where you were saying what you want is free education for all. But some people would say, is that really feasible? From the soundbites now.
Let's put the issue in a proper perspective. First, you have talked of a budget for education. The first thing you need to know, there needs to further statistic. That's a budget for the Ministry of Education.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah,
you're quite right. It's a total budget.
It's a budget for Ministry of Education. And, part of the context, because you need to know what is the political office order content in terms of that budget. Secondly, if you look at the budget this year, 25% of that budget goes to security. That's the highest. You have 1.2 trillion. That is important.
Go on.
You see, you have about 1.2 trillion also into that. I'm bringing out certain things. When you look at the security budget, in terms of securities, I'm not talking of personnel. In terms of what you need, physical facilities to keep security, that budget is consuming nothing less than about 3/4 of what you have there. What it means is this: capital flight, because you don't produce anything. I'm going to link that up, because when you are talking in terms of education, in terms of the need assessment, the Nigerian Defense Academy, which is a degree awarding institution, was also covered in the tertiary institution that is being talked about.
Okay.
Now, there's also a component part of that budget that people must also look into, which is also about almost 7% for what you call debt servicing. Now, let's now come to the basic of what we are talking about.
Good.
Education, the demands by the unions, in most cases, are not about allowances. But because you see
but
the focus,
that's the core.
No,
it's
not the core. It's not the core. I will give you. It's not the core. If you take the tertiary institutions, for instance, where you have had need assessment at least at level of universities, the ASU demands, the key demand of ASU is adequate funding of education. The second, implementations of the need assessment. You see, if you look at the polytechnics, you get it. They are talking first, the establishment of a Polytechnic Service Commission, the way you have a National University Commission, as to regulate, because what they are presently using is the NBT, National Board for Technical Education, to regulate and institutions you want to be the base of your technology. You see? So these are key to standard. Why I raise this thing is that because when you talk about funding, funding in most cases, you see, are not for salaries.
They don't go.
Yeah, they don't go for salaries. And within the university system, no, I must place the unions in proper perspective for people to understand. The professors who are not even in most cases, you see, who are in most cases whether part of the management or the other, because when those funds are given, there are no money for ASU. There are monies that goes into the management of those institutions. So it must be separated. So now when you
because
look...
we really need to understand, when you're calling for funding, what exactly...
Yeah, what you are talking about funding, yes.
You want to see capital projects at
the funding, you see, the funding you are talking about today is the funding of the facilities and infrastructures you have in the universities. Let me give you the minimum standard in any university, polytechnic or the other. The minimum classroom standard is 50, it should accommodate 50 students. You are having classrooms today meant for 50 students, be it 20, 25 years ago, 10 years ago, that are accommodating about 500 students. You get it? It's important.
There's a statistics I want to show you. I want you to react to that statistics. I mean, we're looking at selected universities now because we just pointed out that you saw the statistics, quite 4.something billion to the Nigerian universities. But look at those selected universities now. Okay. As I said the other time, what is left after recurrent, what is left for capital project is actually 60.141 billion naira. And that is what will be shared by all the federal universities, all the federal education institutions, including, of course, the Ministry of Education and all of that. So let's look at these universities now. Look at what the University of Ibadan, for instance, there. Look at what it is spending on recurrent alone. It is spending 13,449,036,000. So it's getting basically 13.5 billion. It's spending 13.5 billion on recurrent, and look at what it's getting for capital project, 419.6 billion. Okay. I want to get your reaction to that, Hachike.
I mean, you see, the issue, you know, when you talk about...
there's a clear... I mean,
we challenge this time.
Yeah, because
when I get there.
Yeah, because from what we can see there's a clear, a clear imbalance.
If people talk about, for instance, recurrent, expenditure, and not just, in the context of even the ASU struggle right now, but in the context of Nigeria as a whole, where we are told that about 70% of the country's budget is, goes to recurrent expenditure, and then maybe about 30% for capital expenditure and so on. Same thing you are trying to point out here and so on. You want to ask yourself, for instance...
Now, that figure is from the budget.
Yeah, recurrent expenditure stems from allowances, from salaries that are being paid to people who are working. Now, those people have not committed any offense, for instance, in taking up employment in order to discharge their duties and their services. It has nothing to do with even the people that are working and have merited the salaries that they are earning.
It's quite disturbing.
It tells you that the distortion, there's a distortion. Let me just finish. There's a distortion with the way governance is being run in this country. You understand? It's as simple as that. If you're having just about 30% for capital expenditure, you know you're not going to go anywhere. Now, why is that happening? Again, it is said, And from a multilateral financial institution,
has to provide
that
jobs
70 cents out of every dollar is being stolen through corruption. 70 cents out of every dollar. So you now have a very big problem. Where is this money going to? Monies that should have been used for the education sector.
It would appear we know where the money is going.
Yeah.
It's going into overhead and salary of personnel.
Let me challenge these statistics, and there's a reason for it.
Okay, if we can have the statistics.
You've given figure.
Yeah.
For just about 5 or 6 universities there now.
Yeah, of course. I mean,
you have
selected universities. And those universities actually got the highest.
It's important. Why I want to challenge that is this. You give a figure for that. If you add those figures up, they're about 50 billion. They're about 50 billion.
Just go on.
They're about 50 billion. Now, it's from the 427 billion. You are funding over 1,000 schools.
That's quite
You
true.
get it, Uncle? You are funding more than 50 federal universities. You get it? Now, because I cannot see off here now, you get it? If I've had the benefit, I'll bring out the actual content figure. And the reason is this.
Are you questioning these figures?
Yeah, I question. I will tell you why.
You're questioning these figures?
There's a reason. No,
this is actually from the nation's budget.
You see, there's a reason. No, I will tell you there's a reason. That budget has to be questioned. Because if we are even talking about the content of what ASU demanding in terms of the university to be 92 billion. We have not talked about
what ASU is asking, that's accumulation of allowances.
No, it's not allowance.
They earn allowance. I've spoken with some ASU guys. I mean, they say they're asking for earned allowances. But what I'm basically saying is, you take a look at this statistics now, take a look at the figure. Yeah. There's a huge difference between what you're getting for capital project and what you're getting for...
No, that's you see, statistics...
This is a problem.
You see, the way statistics... You see, wait. You see, statistic presentation, you get it. In the first thing, I'm a student of that background. I will first need a holistic picture, you see, of the statistic. There's a reason. All the universities today in Nigeria are operating currently at less than 55% of their capacity.
No doubt about that.
No doubt about it. You get it, Uncle? Because, you see, the ratio for those studying humanities, those studying social sciences, is 1 teacher to 24 students. The ratio for sciences is 1 student to 1 lecturer to 10 students. In terms of the content, there's a reason. And Nigerian lecturers are the poorest paid that you have in the world. Today, you can go and find out and check all those statistics. What I'm saying is that in even giving money to the universities, in terms of the facility deficiency that has to be corrected, it must be based on those standards of fact. And I'm saying that if you are having some form of disproportionate statistics, it needs to be questioned further on that. My own argument is that...
What would you have expected to see? Yeah. Are you saying you would have expected to see a situation?
So what I'm saying...
Because the ideal situation would have been that
there's a difference between the budget. You know, let me tell you. You see, budget in most cases... That's why when you look at the budget in Nigeria, they will tell you at the end of every year, only a certain percentage of the budget has been implemented. Then you ask yourself, why? The demand now that you are talking about, was it part of the budget or outside the budget that have been demanded? You see, the reason why I'm bringing out this fact clearly is that at the budget level, you can have grandiose statistics. At the level of implementation, you get it, Uncle. Do you have that money into those systems? Because if those funds are in that system...
I'm going to come back to you. But there's something I want us to get clear here. I mean, we're not basically saying the universities are getting enough. We're just saying they're not getting... Obviously, the universities are not getting enough. If a university, for instance, the recurrent of a university is so high, it's about 3 or 4 times what it gets. It's not acceptable.
I agree, and I'm not even
And I'm just going to ask you, don't you think that's what your group, for instance, like JAF, should actually be pushing for? You know, really campaigning against a situation where recurrent is so very high?
There's no basis for that kind of campaign, not at all. Because what we are saying is that a good worker does not deserve his wages. Where does this recurrent expenditure come from? From people who are working in service of their nation. Are we saying that I mean, it does not matter whether it is recurrent expenditure? And whenever I listen to the Minister of Education talk about, the high cost of a recurrent expenditure and the rest, I don't know where she's coming from. It's a reality that they have created. Because what we are seeing is a manifestation of a bigger problem in this country. The problem of lack of proper governance in Nigeria. That has brought about some of these things that we're seeing, symptoms of a state that is not working up to scratch. These are some of the issues, some of the realities. Now, what does a government do? A government will go all out to look for ways to fund its activities when it comes to governance. A government will go out of its way to look for ways to generate funds, you understand, to be able to take care of its responsibilities. Whether it is recurrent expenditure, whether it is capital expenditure, it is the responsibility, the duty, obligation of government to ensure that the country works. Same thing with education. So if you say that the recurrent expenditure is so high, is it so high because you have too many people working in the system that do not deserve to work and so on? And if they deserve to work, what is the crime in paying them their monies, which you say is so high?
Not at all. These are the ways I'm looking at. I understand me. I understand you.
And again, yeah.
What I'm just basically saying is this. I mean, you're quite right.
It's an anomaly.
I'm just saying, shouldn't we understand the situation that the government has got on its hands here?
No, the government.
Even as we speak, these universities.
Let me respond to
I'm coming.
Yeah.
These universities, the federal universities, we are told, still need nothing less than, I'm talking about the federal universities now, they need nothing less than 30,000 lecturers.
Let me make this point. No, let me just, I'll pass it over to you. You see, what I want to say, you ask certain questions. There's not enough money. That is the argument they are making. Even first of all, let me just correct something. That the Minister of Finance says that the ASU is demanding for 92 billion naira. ASU is not demanding for 92 billion naira. They have never demanded for 92 billion naira, whether it's 7 billion naira and so on. What the Minister of Education is talking about is an agreement that they had. They agreed with them to give this amount of money. It's even more than the 92 billion naira. They only compromised to that level. Do you understand? This is the issue. From the beginning, they had an agreement. 1.5 trillion naira. They agreed with the government in 2009. And then for a period of 3-4 years, that money will be injected into the education sector. 500 billion naira every year. And, when the government reneged on that agreement, they went on the
500 million.
500 billion. 500 billion. It was 1.5 trillion naira at the initial stage to span a period of 3-4 years. Then, when they reneged on that agreement, ASU got in touch with government over a long period of time. By 2012, the Secretary of the federal government got in touch with them after their 1-month warning strike because there was nothing forthcoming from the government. They signed an MOU, Memorandum of Understanding, with ASU and said, look, but we have an issue with paying this money. What we can do is this. Let us make a commitment payment of 100 billion naira so that you see it as a sign of commitment that we're committed to this process. And then within a year, we build it up to by another 400 billion naira. And so on. So that over a period of 3-4 years, you have put in 1.5 billion as emergency intervention fund into the education sector. And then even the issue of 26 billion naira, I think ASU was also reasonable. They said it was supposed to span, 26%. It was supposed to span a period of 9-10 years. They said, okay, yes, we understand that there are issues. We understand that you might have problems shoring it up to this level. But let us start at this level. And then over the next 9-10 years, you'll be able to shore to 26%. You understand? That is what it's all about. Because, and then again, you now ask yourself, yes, money is the issue. They don't have the money and the rest. So they tell us. But, DEJI, there are other arguments for the position of ASU outside of even the ASU issue. The issue of governance. For 200 to 400,000 barrels of crude oil are being lost every day in this country. Where does this money go? The government tells us that they are losing this. Is it because perhaps some of the people involved in this looting of the country's, major money coming in from that sector are also people that are involved in government and so on? Why not you block the leakages? Shut up the revenue base of this country. And then you will no longer be talking about a capital, budget that is, that's about 30% as against a recurrent expenditure of of 70%, shore up the revenue base, block the leakages of corruption, which we are saying 70% of every dollar, is stolen through corruption.
I want to take you up, Mr. Arama. I want to take you up on something you said during your rally there. I mean, you basically said what you're asking is free education for all. Across all levels. Do you think that's actually realistic?
It's realistic. You see,
in modern-day Nigeria, with all the competing needs
let me tell you, it depends on how you define your priorities. The neglect for education and social welfare over time has created this high level of general insecurity that the security budget now has over 1 trillion naira. What this means is this. If you build a socially stable environment, such funds will have been channeled into that. Secondly, because you are dependent, you see, you are running an economy that is dependent on foreign dictate. You cannot add value to your own product. And that's why you're import dependent, you are that and go. And you are involved in debt. Servicing. Servicing debt, that's why I say servicing debt. It's about 7%. It's unnecessary. You see, you could have freed in the current budget about 1.5 billion, even without the other commitment. It depends on how you prioritize your...
But do you genuinely think this government can... I mean, the government of Nigeria can
wait,
really
you see,
afford
what is government? Just hold on. What is government? Even funds that are stolen are not spent in Nigerian local market. It's part of the capital flight. Between 79 and 83, we have run civilian arrangement. This is not the first time. Part of the deceptions of democracy in Nigeria is for people to be talking of democracy in the context of what happened between 1999 and now. Public officers' children, the Jakonde, the Impakwe, the Aminu Kanus, you see, were in public schools, whether at primary, secondary, or tertiary level. Today, there is no public officer, even from the councillor, you see, that are having their children in any of the public institutions. And that's why you have that neglect.
I quite understand your point.
So,
Let us talk about
the point is that where you have countries, the lowest you can find in Africa outside Nigeria is 70% funding.
Yeah, because you talked about those countries. I want us to take a look at another slide now. A slide now of some countries. I want to look at the percentage of the national budget now, the percentage that goes to education. We'll take a look at that slide. There you have it. Ghana is actually, well, Ghana is our neighbor. Ghana has the percentage of budget allocation to education, of course, is 31%. And Cote d'Ivoire is 30%. There you have Uganda, 27%, Morocco, South Africa, and okay.
They can cross-check the South Africa. Currently, in their budget now is 38%.
It's 38%. Okay, yeah. Let's see. There's another slide. I mean, because I think there's a continuation. There you have not that one actually, but we also saw. I mean, from the slide, we saw, for instance. Okay, there you have it. Look at the USA, for instance, is 17.1, and some people would say, well, if the US, for instance, is 17.1, and there you have Nigeria 8.7. Some would say, well...
Can I give you an information?
Yeah, go
Read Obama, The Audacity of Hope. Obama already agreed that Americans' attention to education is lower. And that's why China, Indians, and others are ahead of them. And he talked passionately about the need to commit to public education. As a matter of fact, he argued that the teachers should be the highest paid in America in that context. So when you have that, the fact that you have a USA does not mean that it's a literate country. So Nigerian, in terms of the UNESCO standard, it's not a Nigerian design. You see, there are standards in some things called universal values. You don't invent your own standard where there's already a universal acceptance on what is tested. It's like in mathematics now. 1 + 1 is 2 all over the world, wherever you are studying. Whatever makes it 3, there's an added variable. That is what goes on with education. When you say Ghana is spending 100 billion on education, the first thing you should ask yourself, how many universities is Ghana spending that money on?
Very few universities.
You get very few universities that go.
400.
The budget of 2 universities in South Africa is more than what They are demanding for about 74 universities in Nigeria now to be funded, and polytechnic. So they are standard in what has to be done. You see, every responsible society defines its priority clearly. Because you must ask yourself, now sack all the Nigerian lecturers now, whether polytechnic, college of education and everything, and tell me whether any lecturer from Ghana or from any of those countries will come and teach here. They will not. Because their basic standards, you must relate to them with. And that is why I said that in looking at recurrent expenditure, you know, that's why I said there is no university today in Nigeria that is operating above 55% of their capacity. When you look at those universities, look at college of education, look at the polytechnics, their standard requirement. 40% of the lecturers in the universities must be professors. 35% must be senior lecturers. You get it? In fact, in today's standard, there is no room. The other one must be 25% must be lecturer 1 or 2. There is nothing like assistant lecturers any longer in the standard in the world. There is nothing like graduate teachers in the standard in the world. That is the standard. So when you are talking of education, you are talking of international competitiveness.
But
I'm raising this
because we're actually running out of time here. Do you really think this government at this moment can afford 26%?
If the government wants to run government the way government should be run, the government will do that. First of all, what they need to do is to block the avenues of leakages, the theft that is going on today by high-ranking government officials across board in this country, local, federal, and state governments. First of all, and you save a lot of money from that. The fuel subsidy thieves that happened last year, and the probe and the rest, how much has been recovered from that? Perhaps these monies can be put into education. Not one single amount of money has been recovered. The oil that is being stolen every day, 200 to 400,000 barrels of crude oil, that is money that could go into funding education if they are serious about that. It's not. I hope I've answered your question. It's as simple as that. If government wants to be a government, fulfill its responsibilities, it will do the needful in order to use the fund that they generate from there to do the needful of that's in terms of funding education.
Your
the government can do that.
You said it's going to be nationwide. The one you had was just in Lagos.
No, let me just even add to that it's about priority.
That's it.
It took only the central bank intervention, not National Assembly, to bail out private capital.
That's
by releasing 620 billion.
Yeah. In one trench.
That's why I say, see, there's a difference between budget and the reality. There's a parallel economy that is going on in Nigeria in terms of the slush fund. You get it? That are never accounted for. You will have asked yourself, what is the GDP of Nigeria today outside the central bank? What is the GDP of the CBN? Because one, that money was not from the National Assembly. Secondly, there was the National Political Reform Conference. I'm raising this because
you're quite right, and we spent quite a huge amount of
money.
You get that?
And the money was never appropriated to any act of National Assembly.
That is quite
Where did that money come from? You see? And that's why I said, you see, if you look at the budget, it could be deceptive. You need to talk in terms of the realities. In terms of what are the revenues that are generated. I know that in Tinkan Port alone, I'm not talking of the other ports throughout the country, Tinkan realizes not less than 150 billion quarterly. So yeah, because
I get your point, but very quickly because we're running.
And lastly,
I can go on and on.
The Federal Inland Revenue Services has declared, you know, about a revenue of so far for the third quarter of about 4 trillion naira.
The government will tell you they have some other needs as well. That there are some other.
Not education.
Yeah, but I'm not holding forth for the government, but the fact is that it's what we have with our education sector today is quite poor. I mean, if you have 36 federal universities, about 42 polytechnics and what have you, and so many institutions sharing. Then you talk about the Ministry of Education and the various commissions and agencies you have sharing 60 billion naira as capital project. That is a massive scandal. But let me ask you, your protest, the one you had in Lagos, couldn't you have done it better? You created a serious problem in Lagos. This huge traffic jam.
I will answer you. Somebody was asked, he was in traffic for many hours, and he was asked the same question exactly. I said, look, if it's about turning the education in this country around, if it's about then what these people are doing is right, I'm ready to stay here for an extra 2 hours.
Because, I mean, we saw the quite a massive protest, no doubt. But
yeah, he said so, and so many other people that were asked said it was not an inconvenience. If it's about turning education around in this country, they will make the necessary sacrifice.
Well, you probably could have, you know, organize your protest, be on one side of the road.
No, can we,
yeah.
let me tell you, why do we have this kind of protest there? There are disruptions of traffic because the public officers has to move. When they arrange a crowd to support the government, you get it, it's not an issue. It's not whether anybody is into any disruptions. You see, essentially, given our own environment, the essence of protest in most cases is to wake up the people to the reality of what we have to do. There are sacrifices. There's no protest without sacrifices. There's no way you can enjoy any measure of freedom. The US that people look at as examples, there are sacrifices in the light of this. So each time we engage in some of those things, you also know we are sacrificing our own time, our own work, our own career, and value. So the bottom line is that you see in a country like this, everybody wants to be spectators. Ideally, abroad today, where you look at most of those countries, because they have been through series of struggles in the past. If there is a struggle like this, they will park their car and they will join the processions because they know the value of what comes out of that to them, uncle. So, but here, even when you are still engaging people, they feel that every protest now is anti-government. You get it? It's essentially a protest to save the country.
And you're going to hold more.
And we are going to hold more of that.
It's for the soul of our country, and I think we love this country so much to want to just pretend that all is well. We will not do that. I think we've decided to do the needful, and that is to, like you say, create that awareness. Unfortunately, the carnage that is going on in the north, you cannot separate it from the lack of education of that particular region of the country.
Just before we go, very briefly, there's a video I want you to take a look at. Take a look at that video, and you know, because we're talking education here, this thing actually happened in Edo State, where the governor was carrying out a verification exercise, you know, just a kind of audit of teachers' certificates and all of that, to weed out ghost teachers, so to speak. And this is actually what the governor came across. I want you to take a look at that video. When we come back, you give me your reaction. Let's take a look at that.
You are my teacher, so this is how to pronounce it.
You did see judiciary as division, holding at JEC360.
What is judiciary? Judiciary.
It's a code now. You will work on.
Okay.
Declaration of age. Declaration of age.
Say the what?
Declaration of age. Declaration of age.
Declaration
of age.
Is it declaration or declaration?
Declaration of age. Yeah?
Should that be your teacher? Huh? You should be my teacher. You are my teacher.
Okay. Declaration of age.
Okay.
Eh?
Everything, yes.
Mrs. Josephine.
No.
At the number one now. Mrs. Josephine Ato.
No.
And this one. Number one. Mrs. Josephine Ato. Christian City of.
Is that correct? Is this one or I?
I, Mrs.
Is that what you said before? You said one.
Okay, I, Mrs. Josephine Ato.
Wait, should that be your teacher now or your teacher?
I, Mrs.
Wait, don't. I and one. Should they mean the same thing? Yes. You say it's one. I keep going, I think you say that it's one.
I, Mrs. Josephine Ato. Eh?
What?
Ato. Christian citizens.
All right. I mean, you saw that. I mean, some people will say, well, that is how low our education has sunk. That's actually a primary school teacher could not read her own age declaration affidavit. And who do we blame for that? Let me ask that.
Let me say that it's the failure of the system that you're having this. And I will tell you, part of also the demand by HASU in particular is the autonomy in running the sectors. People don't know what is called academic freedoms and autonomy. Now, when you look at that, who recruited that woman? It's through the School Management Board, which is an agency of the government. You see, there are something you call internal administrations in the school systems that will actually have discovered this. If you do further investigation, it's not impossible that even the head teachers in those places, there may have been some form of protest against her even in the past, but it's covered up at certain other level. So it's the rot. And why I don't want to go further, there is a school I don't want to mention. You get it? When we intervene at a point, certain level.
It's really bad at that school, right?
Yeah, that students could do exam at tertiary level without having registered for that, for those courses. You get it? And you have the authority, a governor, a sitting governor then, who will say, ah, yeah, it's our school, allow them. If you don't allow them, we sack you. So those kind of things happens. So it's the kind of how the old things have gone down.
Yeah, you know, some years back when I think Bukola Saraki was governor of Kwara State, they did, you know, something like this, and I think set exams for the teachers, and discovered that over 75% of those teachers were not qualified to be teaching children. These are the children that graduate from primary, secondary school,
that
and
primary school
tertiary
stage
school.
is very crucial.
That is where you capture the children. The future of the country is actually, it actually starts from that. Is the foundation. Because once you push them, especially you push them in a skewed system like we have in Nigeria to the university level and so on, at the end of the day, the product will be the kind of product that the Minister of Finance talked about. They are not employable. But it's a failure of the system. It's a failure of the state. Of course, I will not tell you that it's all uhuru. Even parents, when it comes, it's a very deep problem. That was why I was telling you when we started that this is a manifestation of so many other problems that we have in this country. Tomorrow you're going to discuss aviation. Next tomorrow you're talking about road infrastructure and so on. It's all part of a global problem with Nigeria. If you don't tackle these things at the fundamental level, you cannot get even any of these sectors right. Tomorrow government is going to, maybe as a matter of the pressure and the rest, I tell you they are going to accede to ASU's demands or whatever, the agreement they willingly sign with the government. But is this government capable of fulfilling any obligation or responsibility that they have to the people? They have not just failed ASU. The governments in this country have failed the Nigerian people. ASU is just part of the people of this country.
That's a different thing altogether. I want to thank you, gentlemen, for coming on the program. Thank you very much, Achikechudi, who is the vice chairperson of JAF, that's a Joint Action Front, and the Secretary General, Mr. Abiodun Aramo. Thank you very much for coming on the program. So we're going to have more protests across the country, right?
Definitely. Oh, for sure. It's a continuous thing.
Okay,
yeah.
And let's just hope the government listens to you. Well, thank you very much for coming. Well, still ahead on the program, the PDP is on the back foot in the politics of the southwest of the country. It has never won governorship election in Lagos since 1999, but it now says all of that is just about to change. I'll be speaking with a senior member of the party in Lagos, so stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back. After the 2007 general election, the PDP steamrolled itself into power in southwest Nigeria. The party won the governorship of 5 of the 6 southwest states. But fast forward to 2013, the party is not in control of a single state in the southwest of Nigeria. Nowhere is the PDP's misfortunes more pronounced than in Lagos State, where in spite of its best efforts, the party has successively failed to win the governorship of Nigeria's commercial capital. The next round of election is around the corner, and the party is again getting set for what it says will be the final showdown. It says it is poised to win over Lagos and even Southwest this time around, but then it is definitely not going to be an easy task. Take a listen now to what the former Deputy National Chairman of the party, Chief Olabode George, told members recently.
You know, when I was away, some people said that they said all kinds of things, and I don't want to glorify them by responding. We decided to ensure that the PDP is in control in Lagos. Before I left, I had a press conference where we addressed issues concerning the upliftment of the underprivileged. the middle class. I don't want to talk about the upper class. They can survive if they want, but not at the expense of the common people. Just to remind our people that the battle for 2015 has started. Yes. The battle for 2015 has started.
Well, Chief Olabode George, the former Deputy National Chairman of the PDP, speaking to members of the party recently in Lagos, actually yesterday. Joining me on the program now is the PDP Chairman in Lagos State, retired Captain Tunji Shele. Thank you very much for joining us on the program. You heard Chief Bode George there saying that the battle has started. That would definitely resonate with you.
Definitely, yes. Lagos is a very cosmopolitan place. Lagos is rich. Lagos has human and material resources. Lagos is a conglomeration of different ethnic groups. Yoruba, Hausa, Igbo, Ijaw, Fulani, mention it. But it's supposed to be a Yoruba state. We are not only looking at Lagos, we are looking at the entire
Southwest of Nigeria. Of course, definitely we're going to come to that. But
in the case of Lagos, yeah, thank God, we have a level playing ground now for 2015.
You didn't have it in 2011?
Not at all.
You didn't have it in 2007? You didn't have it in 1999?
We had it in 1999.
But you didn't win Lagos?
We won, but we were denied.
2003?
2003 was close to 1999.
And 2007?
2007. They stockpiled so much money.
And 2011?
Similarly, they did. They had so much money that they were buying votes.
So what is different now?
What is different now is that Lagosians now know their friends. The present Lagos state government has done more damage to the psyche of the people than helping them. It's like the entire middle class is already wiped out. The poor are getting poorer, while the rich, not the entire rich, just about 20, 30 people.
And when you say the middle class has been wiped out, some people will disagree with you because they say in Lagos it appears the middle class, as in that if the middle class is coming back in Nigeria, Lagos is a clear pointer, that you see clear evidence of the middle class coming back to Nigeria from Lagos.
You wouldn't see middle class in the interior of Motion. You wouldn't see middle class in the interior of Adegunle. You wouldn't see middle class in the entire Badagry. You wouldn't see middle class in the entire Ekpe province. You won't see middle class in Ikorodu.
And those are the areas the PDP is targeting to turn around its fortunes.
We are targeting all, the entire Lagos, because Lagos is winnable. I want to give credit to some of the works Governor Fashola had done. We could see the difference between his regime and that of his predecessor.
And you don't think this work you're talking about now could propel the party into power again?
Well, now the same government that did some work has started nosediving in the area of provision of infrastructure, in the area of education, in the area of health, in the area of at least man management. Being convinced that the other person is a human being, he should be given an opportunity to live. The ordinary market woman does not have a place of its own. If Tejuosho market is demolished today, by the time the market people are going to be replaced, they are going to be replaced by people who are already rich, who can afford to forgo that area and move to the next level and do some other things. They are always denying the poor the opportunity to survive. When they demolish Ijora, where is the replacement? When they demolished Badia, where is the alternative? When they demolished
Badia, the governor says he's going to put up a new project there. As a matter of fact,
I like that.
Several buildings are going to come up
Those
there.
several buildings, the original occupants will not have a place in such buildings.
But even though the governor has said that the original occupants would be given the opportunity to reoccupy those buildings. But
I believe they cannot afford it.
But let's look at the PDP now in Lagos before we go on to the Southwest. One of the problems people have said with the PDP is, and that has been your undoing over the past, since 1999, let me put it that way, is the infighting within your party. And that infighting is still on. Not quite long ago, we had a faction of your party, a faction of the party in Lagos here, held a press conference led by Chief Finney, held a press conference where they were condemning your own leadership and said you were not properly elected as the PDP chairman of Lagos State. And they were actually, saying that you are not recognized by the national and should not be allowed to be part of the convention that will be coming up soon.
I just don't want to join issues with somebody that I put at a very high esteem, somebody that I respect so much. Long before now, if Chief Bodejoy was not around, we rallied around him, recognized him, gave him that respect an elder should have. Not because he has what it takes to lead, just because he has good presentation as a person. You see him as a very nice person, and that's okay. We respected him. It means he hates the party, not the people. I am one of his loyalists. I believed in him. I respect him.
You are part of the union group.
I'm not a party should not be split into groups. You can only use that one probably when you are contesting for elections. You come together, you want to work for a particular candidate. After that, you dissolve into the whole and come back as a party. But some people are using it to derive perennial benefits.
But that's a problem for you. If you're having this kind of problem,
I want to assure you. I want to assure you.
Someone in his caliber to not be part of you.
I don't think
he has his own followers as well.
He's still in the party because probably he feels he will be recognized, he will have relevance. Some people will see him from somewhere. Because I can't believe somebody of his own status will do such a thing. Every other leader is back. Ogunlewe is back into the fold. Obanikoro, you are aware, you are very close to the party. Dr. Sule is back in the fold. Every prominent leader, General Lanrewaju, Mrs. Minor, if we have 10 leaders, 10 prominent leaders in Lagos, and one of them is a dissident, it's not good enough.
It wouldn't make any difference.
It wouldn't make it. We are moving forward.
It won't affect you in the next election?
Not at all. We move ahead. Those people, he's just deceiving them, giving them the impression that the ESCO will be dissolved and they will be replaced. Anytime we go to Abuja, before we come back, we will hear that they've dissolved the ESCO just because of the likes of Finn. It's not fair.
But you obviously don't need this kind of problem.
We don't want it. So we are moving ahead. I've left him.
Let us look at Southwest.
Yes.
Southwest, it is definitely going to be a Herculean tax for you, just like in Lagos. You're not in control of any of the states in the Southwest of the country.
I'm
and
happy.
You think the equation will change?
I'm happy for one thing. They call themselves progressives. APC. Well, I will want them to be an alternative platform. I will want them to challenge us. But I can find out something, I can say something categorical, that it's old wine in new wine skin. They are all spent.
But they're in control of the five.
Well, let them be in control. I've told you how it's going to happen. People are going to be suspicious of a party like APC. Why did they change from AD to AC?
Well, some would say if they could win an election as ACN, they definitely will win it as APC.
No, APC connotes something different.
Can the name change the equation for the party?
It's going to change the equation this time around.
You think so?
Because
not the performance of the party in office? Not, for instance, you're telling me that if a governor has done very well, just because the governor has decided to change the name of his party, not really change himself, that will
I want to know
spell doom for him in the next
they want
election.
to do differently from what they are doing now. If you consider Lagos, LASU is in Kamatus. It's not an institution. And that's the only pride of Lagos State. If somebody is a governor and you are seeing LASU decaying, definitely you lose some points. If you go to the Atlantic Ocean and you start sandfilling and you want to sell land at 700 million or 450 million per plot, it's a minus. People will see you and suspect you that you are only for the rich.
I still want to know how you intend to win the Southwest.
These are the issues we shall use to win Lagos. Ogun will use his own factor. I don't want to talk too much about some states. But I know Ekiti is in position to regain its lost ground.
Election will be coming up there next year, yeah.
Because even the one they claim they won in Osho and Ekiti, it was through the back door. Somebody paid to get these places reverted to ACN. They planted some judges.
Even though that has not been proved. Anyway.
We may not be able to prove it here, but records have it. Those people who did it know it. And there is nothing you do in the darkness that will not come to light at one stage or the other.
So you're not bothered at all by the registration of APC?
APC, that name connotes a negative tendency.
Some would say that's just political rhetoric.
No, they can say so, but I know, I will start from Lagos. If the government of Fashola is now nosediving, the Okada riders are displaced, the tricycle riders are moved out, it means they are breeding criminals. Anybody that drops out from that is likely to be an armed robber. And people have known that they are not a government of the people. They are there to deceive them. After using them, they dump them. This one will work in our favor. Similarly, it will work in some other states in the Southwest, where they are demolishing structures, even when they are not prepared for it. They are building...
You keep talking about demolishing. You're not
bridges.
talking about rebuilding.
They are building
rebuilding as well.
Bridges that should cost about 40 billion and call it 80 billion. A kilometer of road is now costing about 1 billion. And somebody is even, has the guts, has the audacity to award a contract to his own son. And what they are awarded, you cannot even see any sense in it. All these things will work in favor of PDP when the electionary campaign comes on.
And let's just hope that your party gets it right when it comes to choosing who would fly your flag, because it's always a potential trouble spot for you. So let's just hope you get it right there.
I think that's the area we have to work hard, and we are working hard already, and I can assure you, we come with the best candidates, the candidate everybody would love to vote for, the candidate that can project Lagos, that can project himself, that can project the economy of the state, project the industries of the state, and we move forward, and Lagos will not be the same again.
All right. We can only wish you the best of luck in 2015. It's just around the corner anyway. Thank you very much, Mr. Tunji Shele, for coming on the program.
Thank you.
Well, that's it on DEJI360. Well, thank you very much for watching. We're back again next time with yet another guest, of course, on a different issue altogether. Thank you very much for watching. See you next time.